Welcome to Screen Weens, episode 96, presented by Honda.
I thought you were going to say Han Solo.
Presented by Han, so we're both wearing Star Wars shirts today.
We're not discussing Star Wars.
Well, I guess we'll talk about it probably briefly.
Probably.
So today, I'm London, that's Thomas. We make a podcast called Screen Weens. You're listening to it right now. What the fuck? Today we're going to be talking about two Jim Jarmusch films from 89 and 91. First one being
Mystery
Train. Second one being Night on Earth. But before we do that, as always, me and Thomas are going to talk about random shit for a while.
Yep.
What'd you do this week, Thomas? Anything particular?
I watched the end of Season 1 of Clone Wars, and then I got a decent chunk into Season 2. I watched all of that one bounty hunter.
Cad Bane?
Yeah, I watched, I think, most of his stuff. The point where I'm at, he basically kind of got caught, but he got away. So I'm sure he'll be back in the future. But it feels like his stuff's probably wrapped up for the time being, maybe.
People love Cad Bane. I like him. I like his design. He's pretty cool. I like his...
I can see why. It was a pretty good little handful of episodes, and I was pretty invested. I really liked the one arc before where Obi-Wan, crashes the, little jet thing that they ride on, that has, the safety handles. I don't know what those things are called. The flyers.
Mm-hmm. The clone carrier thing?
Yeah. And
I think there's some kind of gunship. I can't remember what they're called, though.
Yeah. And it's, Anakin and the one, Longhead. The cone.
Ki-Adi-Mundi?
Yeah. And they're, keeping track of, how many, droids they kill. I thought that arc was pretty good.
Yeah. Clone Wars is good. I know people like to shit on the first couple seasons for whatever reason, but I like the first couple seasons fine.
I'd say I like it. I think most of it, at this point, I realized not a lot of it sticks. A lot of it feels the same. Unless they start going into, a multi-episode arc, in which case it kind of, is better. But... yeah, I can see why a lot of the, miscellaneous stuff kind of goes under the radar. Because, I just picked up from where I left off, and I'm I don't remember much. I just remember various battles.
You remember the Jar Jar Binks episode.
I remember Bombad Jedi. Of course, how could I forget?
The Jar Jar Binks episodes are some of my favorite in Clone Wars.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Fun.
And then I remembered Ahsoka, minor spoiler for Season 1, but she, gets into a situation where she has to fight Grievous.
I think it's so funny that Ahsoka fights Grievous. Anakin doesn't even meet Grievous until episode 3. All throughout the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka are constantly fighting, and Anakin's just jerking off in a corner or something.
Yeah. But what's it called? I don't remember what else I was going to say on the Clone Wars, but yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Good.
Oh yeah, I was very shocked when I realized the Admiral in that was the
what, Yularen?
Yeah, was in Thrawn. It took me a while before I realized. I was oh. And I did just a little I watched a little video on it because I was just curious on the broad strokes, and I'm like,
Yeah, well, that's what's cool about, especially the first Thrawn book, is, everyone in that is pretty heavily shown in, the Clone Wars and Rebels, except for Eli Vanto.
Yeah. I figured, because I looked him up and I couldn't find any corresponding source material. Not yet.
How, have you finished book 2, or?
No, I just finished chapter 8, so I'm, little less than halfway.
Okay, cool.
But
I finished all 3 Thrawn books, and then I'm almost done with Dark Disciple, which is based on a cut Clone Wars arc that was going to be in the final season, but, the final season before it got canceled originally.
Oh, okay.
And it follows Quinlan Voss and Asajj Ventress. It was supposed to be Ventress's final stuff. Because in the Clone Wars, Ventress just kind of disappears.
Oh, well, that's kind of lame.
She has something, and she leaves, and then it's and then it just never happens. But the book's been really good so far. The beginning does kind of feel like fan fiction. But overall, I've been really enjoying it. I have like 80 pages left. And then I'm probably just going to jump into probably another Star Wars book. I bought a bunch of Star Wars stuff. I bought the whole original Thrawn trilogy. And then there's another Thrawn duology that's like a sequel to the Thrawn trilogy in Legends. So I bought all those.
Yeah.
And then I bought the book we're reading for next Screen Weens.
Have you thought about reading any of the Ascension stuff yet?
The Thrawn Ascendancy stuff, the prequel stuff. No, I'm most likely, I'm just going to tell you this, I'll probably just wait until the third book comes out in November and then pick that for the podcast.
Oh, okay. I thought they had already all come out.
No, the second book just came out like 2 months ago.
Ah, I see.
And they're I'm actually surprised how fast they're releasing them. Like, they're within like 7 months.
Yeah.
So I'll probably just wait for that. I'm just going to... Thrawn's really cool. I really like Thrawn.
Yeah.
He's blue.
He is.
Yeah, so I've been doing that. What else have I done? I've done a lot this week. Been playing a lot of Star Wars Destiny, reading a lot of Star Wars, working a lot. I don't know where I was in Fast and the Furious last week, but we only have Hobbs and Shaw to watch now.
Okay.
Which we're watching probably tonight.
I think you had gotten to 5.
Oh no, I think I watched 6 because I was like 5's fantastic and 6 is pretty good too. 7's really good. 8's really good. I like them both. I didn't think this would happen, but I've been really enjoying them. They're like so fucking stupid, but they've really gone into knowing that, and I'm like, perfect. We watched Saint Maud, me and Hinatea, which is an A24 film about like a nurse who has.
Saw some promotional material for
it. It was pretty good. It has its issues, and it's a little. It's pretty good.
Okay.
And then, had I seen Spiral, the new Saw movie at that point?
I don't remember you mentioning it.
Okay,
so probably not.
It's so fucking garbage. Jesus Christ.
I
hated it. Yeah.
I really wasn't expecting much. Yeah. It's not like the... I don't really think any of the Saw movies are...
I think one's alright.
Yeah, I think the first one, it's like, this is like...
pretty decent. Fun. Has like
an execution on this concept.
Yeah. But yeah. I haven't watched a lot of them. I'm probably going to go through them all soon.
I stopped at 4 back when they were releasing them, and I never bothered. I remember the last of them coming out, all the promotional material. This is it. This is the last one.
And then they made Jigsaw, and then they made this one.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't care. But I'll probably watch through them eventually. Just not anytime soon.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I've done. Yeah. And then, I read through all of the High Republic comic that has come out so far. There's only 5 issues. It's pretty good. I've been trying to get into newer comic stuff, and a lot of it I've just not been enjoying, but I just read the first Mr. Miracle, and I really enjoyed that one. Or Miracle. Was it Mr.? Yeah, Mr. Miracle. High Republic's really good so far. I think those are the 2 that I've enjoyed so far. Yeah. Yeah, but hopefully I'll find some more that I enjoy. So, it's nice if I work at a comic shop and know comics that I could recommend.
That's fair. You just point them straight to you're like, yeah, you guys like Riverdale, right? Well, I've got this stash of Archie comics.
There are a lot of Riverdale comics, too.
I'm fucking sure.
We should read them for real. All right. You got anything else to talk about?
Nothing substantial. I played a little Red Dead Online, but nothing crazy.
That's pretty cool. All right. Well, you want to just jump in today? No questions.
What?
Yeah, he's out there. You forgot.
Oh. Yeah, let's just jump into it.
Okay. All right. So, first one we're going to be talking about. Did you watch them just Mystery Train then Night on Earth, or did you?
I watched Night on Earth first.
Okay.
totally didn't even register the order. I was just like, I wanted to see this one.
It wasn't even intentional. Like, both of them had been on my list. I didn't remember what they were about. But both of these are anthology films. And I think both of them were, like, I don't think he made a movie in between the two. Because it was 89 and 91.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
Let me double check. But I was like, that's really funny that I just unconsciously chose the two probably best double feature for them. He made he made Coffee and Cigarettes as a full movie later on, but early on he was doing like short films of it. There were like 3, so technically he made the third one in between the two. I think. Wait, maybe I'm lying.
Okay, yeah, because I know that came out like what?
No, that came out afterwards. He was in a. Yeah, no, they were right after each other.
Okay.
So Mystery Train's an anthology film, all taking place in Memphis, Tennessee. The heart of rock and roll, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the place where Elvis
thrived, and he recorded his like original albums there. Big emphasis on Elvis and like how much he cultivated the culture of Memphis, Tennessee. Or supposedly so.
I mean, can you blame him? He saved him from the mummies.
Yeah, he did. Bubba Hotep.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
So, 3 stories. First one is about 2 Japanese tourists. A Japanese couple that come to visit specifically to see Graceland.
Yeah, they're like the opposite of weeaboos.
They're American boos.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow. This would be really cringy. If I think it's funny because it's like, they're still going to like a smaller place. And if an American went to like some random ass fucking city in Japan that wasn't Tokyo, I would think that was funny too.
Yeah. No, of course.
But they're like, we're going to go to Memphis, Tennessee. I'm like, wow, good for you. And I guess Memphis isn't a random ass city, but nobody goes to visit Memphis that isn't from America.
It's not on the top 10 list of tourist attractions, I'd imagine.
But yeah, all they do is they go to like an Elvis museum, and then they have no idea what the lady's saying. And then they go stay at a hotel, which is the connecting piece for everything. Everyone goes to this hotel. I think it's called like the Arcade Hotel. They stay the night, and then they leave in the morning, and it switches back to another person. But they're all staying at the same night.
There's something that builds over the course of this movie, which is a gunshot that
the ghost of Elvis.
Oh. Well, the ghost of Elvis, I felt like...
It's only in the second one. I was just kidding.
Elvis definitely is in all 3 of them, but the ghost of Elvis is only in the second one.
In the first one, they're like, was that a gunshot? And they're like, yeah, we're in America, probably.
Yeah.
That was so fucking funny.
I also love the part where they're like, don't you know hotel rooms come with complimentary towels in the fee?
And I'm like, that's not true.
It's like, I can see where they got that.
And they give the guy a plum as a tip. Yeah. There's a lot of really fun, like, culture shock-esque moments.
I like the bit where his manager's like, are you going to eat that? And he's like, no.
He's like, well, yeah, because the manager's like, you shouldn't eat that. And he's like, are you gonna? And he's like, no, you just told me not. So then he just eats it in one bite, and he's like, hey, that was my plum.
Yeah. But yeah, they hear that gunshot, which doesn't sound like a gunshot. It sounds like a cork being removed from a bottle. It's just like,
well, yeah, that's what gunshots sound like.
Oh yeah,
in Memphis though.
That's right. I forgot.
But then it jumps to the second one, and it's a lady, and she has there's like a coffin. She's like writing paperwork for like a coffin, so someone died. I don't think they ever talk about it.
I think they said it was her husband, so she's just filling out paperwork.
But she was trying to take him back home to Rome, and then there was something went wrong with the plane, so they had to land. So she's just stuck there for the night.
Yeah. So she goes to this diner where this guy pulls her aside and tells her this
creep
David Lynch-esque story about how he was hitchhiking, and he wasn't hitchhiking, he was driving. There's a bunch of hitchhikers. They all look the same. So right before Memphis, he stops and picks one of these identical hitchhikers up. And it turns out
It's Elvis's ghost.
It's Elvis's ghost, and he's got a message to pass along to this woman, this Italian woman in the diner 1 year later. Or it's not a message, it's an item.
A comb.
It's a comb.
It's Elvis's comb. And he's like, but there's a $20 delivery fee. Or 10 if it's okay. And she's like, it's the stupidest fucking story I've ever heard.
Here's 20 to leave me
But here's
alone.
10 for the story and 10 to leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah, and then he tries to, like, he basically waits with a buddy in an alleyway
like,
for her.
Hey, can I spare 2 more minutes? And she's like, what the fuck? No. So then she walks and she tries to get a taxi, but it keeps driving. So then she goes in the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And she runs into a lady who's like, I don't have enough money for the night.
Yep.
Because she had left her husband. And so they stayed in a room together because the Italian woman's maybe not rich, I don't know, but she has a lot of money on her at the very least.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they stay together in the room, and then that night
she sees the ghost of Elvis.
And he's like, whoa, where am I? I'm in the wrong place. And then he just leaves. And she's just like mortified. She's just the whole night, she's just like, oh my God. And then, yeah, the morning comes and we hear the gunshot.
And she's like, must be a 38. I'm like, how do you know that? And then she gives her new friend, like $200. And she's like, have a good life. And she leaves. And then it jumps to fucking...
Do you think that is all meant to, like, suggest that she, like, killed her husband and just got a bunch of, like, money?
Mate, I would... Like, she wasn't...
I mean,
there's a lot of, like...
Jump to that conclusion, but it feels like there's enough little...
Yeah, there's
crumbs.
a lot of crumbs in this that, like, there are other stories you can place. Like, that's what I like about anthology, like Jim Jarmusch-esque anthology films, because, like, you jump into a person's life at a certain point, and, like, you can answer questions with some of these little clues, but you could be completely wrong, too.
Yeah.
Like, she might... Like, she's not showing very much sadness or anything, but she might just not be, like, an open person.
Because, you know, Elvis's ghost was there to comfort her.
Yeah. And then the final story is about the co-founder of The Clash hanging out with Steve Buscemi. But I was like, is that Joe Strummer? And it was Joe Strummer. It was one of the main guys from The Clash. This was one of the only movies he was in. And I was like, what the fuck? Jim Jarmusch just, it's like, hey. He always has either Tom Waits in his films or writing music for his films. I'm just like, what the fuck how are you doing this, Jim Jarmusch?
Yeah, right. It's the hair. It's definitely the hair.
They're like, is that David Lynch? And he's like, oh, close enough. Man, Adam Driver needs to be in a David Lynch movie.
That would be very good. I would love to see that.
Adam Driver needs to be in more movies.
He does.
I can't wait for that movie he's in with Lady Gaga.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like the not the founder of Gucci, but like the son of the founder of Gucci or something like that.
Yeah.
Looks good. Looks fun. We were talking about a movie, though.
Yeah, we were talking about the third installment of Mystery Train, where Steve Buscemi, he plays a barber. Which we see him in the first act, and he's like, has like a fishing pole, and it's on like a roof. I have no idea what the fuck he was doing. Oh, I didn't even remember that part.
Oh yeah, they're walking by, and he has like a fishing pole, and it's up on like the roof.
I do remember
like, what the fuck is he doing? And I'm like, is that Steve Buscemi? I was like, this will be really funny if he's not in the movie anymore. I thought he was only, but then he shows up again. I'm like, well, it's good to see Steve Buscemi, but
yeah. So basically, his brother-in-law, Steve Buscemi's character, is at a bar, and he's pulled out a gun, and he's drunk, and his wife left him. So Steve Buscemi and one of their other friends goes to pick him up. And they go to a liquor store where the guy from The Clash basically shoots the person there.
Because they called his friend the N-word.
Yeah.
Will Robinson. Yeah. He was like, and then he pulls out the gun. He's like, I'm going to take these beers for free or something like that. And he's like, I'm going to be the one that makes you shoot. And then he just shoots him. He's like, okay.
Oh, great. So then
they're just freaking out and then like driving around all night, and then eventually they go back to the hotel because Will Robinson is like, "Hey, that's my brother-in-law. He's like the manager of the hotel." And he gives them like this shitty ass like kink room or something.
Yeah.
And they stay in there the night, and then
in the morning
they have a little scuffle and they shoot Steve Buscemi in the leg.
Yeah, and that's what the gunshot was that everybody heard. You're at the morning, and yeah, then
drive to Arkansas.
They all three go their separate ways. You see all three of them, and yeah, I guess that train was a mystery because it was barely in the fucking movie. But I mean,
yeah, but Mystery Train's also a song.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I'm right over my head. I figured this movie would have been called Blue Moon, if anything. Because of the Elvis song that plays 3 times throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But, maybe they just couldn't get the rights to call the movie that. But, yeah. I don't think I was super crazy about this one. I liked the first one well enough. I was really invested into that one because I didn't know the movie was an anthology. And
Me neither.
Switched.
Me neither. I was like, yo, this is cool. I'm feeling it. And then I was like, oh.
I thought the whole movie was going to be just these 2 Japanese people in Memphis. And I was like,
this is fun.
I'm like, they're fun. They're quirky.
He's like, at one point he like lights a cigarette and then he throws it and like snaps it and lands in his pocket. I'm like,
yeah.
I was like, oh, he's a swag lord too.
Oh man. If only we could have gotten a whole movie with those 2 characters.
Yeah, I definitely was the most invested in the first and maybe the third, but that was mostly because I'm like, hey, it's Steve Buscemi!
Yeah.
And that had like the most stakes to it because it's like, oh, that guy has a gun. I didn't dislike any of the 3. I enjoyed the movie overall. I liked it a decent amount, but
I'd say I probably disliked the middle one.
Okay. That's fair. It was my least favorite, but I like the tonal shift because in the first one, like the Japanese, I like the different feelings of like this town for the different people. Like the first 2, it's kind of like the boyfriend's pretty like he just doesn't kind of give a shit, but the girlfriend's like really like, wow, this is cool. Like, look, it's Memphis. Mm-hmm. And then the second one, the tone's like much darker. Like this woman's being harassed. She's at like a bad point in her life. So like everything just feels kind of dark around it. And then the third one is like, they all fucking hate this town because they've been there for so long or they don't give a shit about it. So I like the different tonal aspects of the movie. I do think that narratively, the second one's like the weakest for me. But I enjoyed it. I liked the movie. And I like the cool different aspects of the same town. Like that storytelling device.
Yeah, I liked it. I just felt like it didn't do enough to like satisfy me, you know.
I would have liked a little more overlap between them because there's a decent amount of overlap between the second and the third because the British dude is the husband. Yeah. Well, not even they were never married, but
yeah.
But like, there's no overlap between the Japanese couple and anyone else. No. So I'm just like, this just feels like one movie and then like. It feels like the first one could be its own movie and the second 2 are connected.
It's like there are definitely details aside from like being in Memphis that connect them. Like they all each have like the Elvis thing that you connect. And I guess you could be like, oh, they came across Steve Buscemi not fishing. But yeah, no, it definitely felt like it didn't as naturally fit in there.
Yeah.
But it was...
But overall, I enjoyed it.
I got
something out
of it. Yeah.
Maybe not all of it, but some of it you got something out of. That's fair. Yeah. I really like the delivery of Steve Buscemi specifically because he's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like the whole time. And then he finds out that his brother-in-law is not even his real brother-in-law. And he's like, you mean to tell me I'm putting up with all this fucking shit and you're not even my brother?
Yeah.
And I like the hotel clerk and the bellboy, their little conversations randomly. And he's like, "You got to get a suit like mine." He's like, "I don't want to ppay for a new suit." And he's like, "I'm going to eat your plum now." Yeah. He's just like a bunch of, like, whenever it cuts to them, I'm like, this is going to be funny.
Yeah, I liked their bits for sure. I like when Steve Buscemi drops the bottle in the lobby.
Yeah, and he's like, "You got a curse on you." And he's like, it was just an accident. But, like, Steve Buscemi is, like, fucking up all the time. And, like, he's, like, falling. And then he gets shot in the leg. Like, it's obvious, like, he might have a curse on him.
Probably.
But he's just like, what the fuck kind of thing is that to say?
Yeah, he's just like, oh, geez, okay. I'm just sorry. God. Just leaves.
Oh, and there's a lot of really fun stuff in the first sequence that I really like. Like, the girlfriend of the Japanese couple, like, she speaks a little English, and somebody asks for, like, a match, and she's like, "Oh, matches, I know that one." They light it, and he's like, "Arigato," and she's like, "Holy shit, he just spoke Japanese."
Yeah.
She's like, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, that's really cute, and, like, just in general. And then they have sex, and he's like, "How come women always think about their hair?" And she's like, "What? What do you mean?"
Yeah, he's like, do you women always, like, think about your hair? And she's like, are you trying to fucking say something, dude? What the fuck?
Let me tell you, the 11 times we've had sex, I've never once thought about my hair. She's like, 11? And he's like, why are you counting? And then she's like, and if you're thinking about hair, maybe shave your face next time. He's like, I just shaved. It's just like these weird fucking conversations that I really love in Jim Jarmusch movies because they feel so out of place at times, but then I'm like, that's very realistic to me, at least. Like, that's exactly what happens. Like, I'll have, like, sex or something will happen, and then we'll just have the most random conversations or the most random arguments. Like, he gets it, at least sometimes. I'm like, yeah.
I like the bit where he's, like, looking out the window at Memphis, and she's like, what are you looking at? He's like, Memphis. She's like, it's just the same. And he's like, no.
He's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, it's not. What do you mean Memphis is the same as, like, Yokohama or whatever they're from? I'm like, what?
Yeah. And then that's the bit where we figure out they're, like, probably just, like, freshly 18, like, just adults and able to, like, travel.
And they have, like, no money either. He's, like, pulling out his money from everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing? Why are you going to Memphis? Gotta meet Elvis.
Yeah. He's like, it's so cool being 18. And it's just like, no, it's not.
But, yeah, there's just not as many, like, fun moments as that in the second one. Like, I think the performance by the main is fine. Like, they're fine. Mm-hmm. And I like the interactions, like her facial expressions when she meets this new woman who just won't stop talking. She's just like, uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's some fun little facial details, but, like, in general, the first part really had me on a high, and then the second part was, I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't nearly as good as the rest, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my closing thoughts. I think you'd give this one a 5.
Mm-hmm. 6? 7.
Yeah, 7. Yeah, I really liked the first and the third parts, and I didn't dislike the second. So yeah, 7. But yeah, let's talk about Night on Earth. I really like this one.
Yeah, I liked this one substantially more.
Man, the first 2 though are so fucking good.
Yeah, it definitely peaked in the first 2. I wish that they had been kind of rearranged a little, because
yeah, it's definitely like the tone. It's interesting. The thing is, so like this takes place in different. Night on Earth, 5 different taxi drivers in 5 different places on the globe. In America and then Europe. They don't go anywhere else. But as it progresses, it starts in LA, then New York, and as it's going, it's later and later in the night. Mm-hmm. So I do like the placement of it as that, because obviously as they're going from west to east, I was like, which way? It's Like, I think it's a good storytelling just to do that, but also the tones get, like, substantially darker as it goes on. Like, the first one's pretty hip, pretty hop, and it's just like, la la la, and the second one's nice and fun, and there's some arguments, but, like, both of them are nice. But as it's getting darker, like, the last one is just like, I'm gonna tell you the most depressing story you've ever heard.
Oh, yeah, that was the last one. I thought the last one was the one with the guy with the sunglasses.
No, that was the fourth one. And, like, that one's funny, but it's, like, also pretty dark, because it's just like, this guy's just dying in the back of your taxi cab.
Yeah.
And then you leave him to dead.
Meanwhile, he's up there just like, and one time I fucked a sheep and it was like fucking, I don't know, hot.
I know I'm supposed to confess my sins, but it was really cool.
And that's it. He just keeps confessing things going,
And I know it's bad, but I can't stop fucking.
Yeah, he's like, one time I fucked a pumpkin when I was a kid, and I fucked a sheep, and I fucked my brother's wife, and the guy's just in the back like, oh.
You ever read Domestic Girlfriend? That's about me.
but yeah, so first story, Winona Ryder, she's so young in this. She's 20 years old in this.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's got a backwards baseball cap. She's like, hey, you wanna ride?
Was this was before Heathers, right?
Ooh,
Or it might have been, like, right after. Because this may be, like, the youngest I think I've ever fucking seen her in anything, off the top of my head. But, yeah, no, I was like, holy fuck, she is...
You've seen Beetlejuice, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, I guess.
She's 17 in Beetlejuice.
Baby. I just haven't watched Beetlejuice in, like, years.
Maybe she's 16 in Beetlejuice. Yeah, she's 16 in Beetlejuice? She's 17 in Heathers. And then she's 19 in Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, okay.
And then this came out the year after.
Yeah, I haven't watched the earlier three.
Those are like big roles, though, too.
Yeah.
We need to do a Winona Ryder.
We do.
Dive.
She's great.
I need to watch that Little Women.
Dude, she's fucking phenomenal in that. But,
Oh, and she's in The Crucible. I remember watching The Crucible, like, in school.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's any good, but I'm sure, like, they're good. And Daniel Day-Lewis, I remember him being like, I was like, holy shit, this guy's good. Because that was, like, one of the first things I'd seen him in. Because it was, like, early high school. I was watching The Crucible. I'm like, that guy's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And he is.
Fair.
And I think I watched There Will Be Blood, like, a year later. And I was like, yo, is that the guy from The Crucible?
Yeah, they had shown us The Crucible, and they had also... we didn't watch the whole movie, but they had shown us bits of The Last of the Mohicans, which he was in. Yeah.
I don't know what that movie's about. He's not actually, like, Native American in it, right? Like, isn't it, like...
It's like one of those, like...
It's one of those, like, it's like The Last Samurai, where it's like, hey, I'm a samurai now.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, I guess is better than, like, a white person playing, like, a non-white person.
Well, yeah.
But like, it's mostly just, like, here's an excuse for a white person to play him. Because even though he's, like, white on the outside, he's, like, one of us. It's like, that's all that is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so she's driving around this, like, rich executive lady who's a casting agent. And she's just like, this go-getter. She's like, I'm going to be a mechanic. Hey, fuck you, Nimrod. She's like, just this funny lady. She's like smoking and she's like,
you need a fucking phone book? I got one of those.
She's like, you shouldn't be smoking so much. She's like, yeah, okay, mom. Yeah. She's pretty fun to watch. I really enjoy. And then at the end, she's like, hey, we're, like, having a casting call for, like, really young people that have this go-getter attitude. Like, you'd be perfect for this. She's like, nah, I'm okay. I don't want to be a movie star. I want to be a mechanic. And I'm just like, this is one of the most righteous characters I've seen in a movie in a while. Like, they're just like, nope, I know what I want. I don't want to be a movie star. I don't want money. I want to be a mechanic. I want to work on cars.
She even tries, she's like, you can be a mechanic later. And she's like, nah, things are going good. I'm on the path already.
I know plenty of girls who want to be movie stars, but that's not my path. I want to fix cars. I want to drive my taxi.
Yeah, and she does a good job because, like, you can just tell through her performance that at least a part of her is thinking about it, because it's like, who wouldn't? Like, you're basically offered, like, a fucking pathway to fuck tons of money.
Yeah.
and notoriety. So it's just like, yeah. But she's like, fuck no. Like, I'm set. Like, I'm already on the path. Like, it's good. So, I like that.
And then we go to the second one, where there's... This one is so fucking funny. Like, I love the inner... So, this German guy named Helmut... Grunkepper or something like that?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Bergenkepper, something like that, is driving a taxi and he's really bad. He like doesn't know how to drive. And somebody, Yo-Yo, this guy is like...
Giancarlo Esposito?
Yeah.
Esposito?
Escarpito? I don't think it's Desposito.
No.
Let me check.
But... Yeah, he's probably most
No, it is Esposito, you're right.
Oh, okay. He's most famous for playing, like, Gus on Breaking Bad, but he was in a couple of the fucking Spike Lee movies.
Yeah, he's in Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing, and he's in, like, Okja, and he's actually in 2 of the Maze Runner movies. He's, like, pretty fun in them, too. I remember when we were watching, Joe was like, is that Gus? And I'm like, who?
Oh, but yeah, he plays Yo-Yo.
They're so good. And he's like, listen, I'll drive the taxi cab because you don't know how to fucking drive. And then I'll give you the money still and then you'll be on your way. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay. And then they get to talking and he's just like...
It turns out the German guy used to be a clown.
He like starts playing the recorders.
He's got like 2 of them and he's really good at just simultaneously... And then they get to Brooklyn, and then well,
like halfway to Brooklyn, he fucking sees his sister-in-law. He's like, "What the fuck?" And it's Rosie Perez, and he's like, "Get in the car!" And then they all drive to Brooklyn together. And he's like, "Look, I'm a clown." He's like, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And they all have a good time, pretty much.
Yeah, and then they drop each other off, and then she's basically like, "All right, have a good night, Helmet. Fuck you, Yo-Yo." Because he like straight up kidnaps her. Like he grabs her and pushes her into the car. It's that scene. I was like, I don't like where this is going.
And then it's like, okay, that's just how they be, apparently.
Yeah, but yeah, and then basically he pays the cab driver, and he's like, all right, you know how to get back, right? And he's like,
no.
All right, well, once you get out to that big main street, ask someone.
Yeah, because he's like, I can't tell you how to get there.
Yeah.
He's like, go, and he immediately takes the wrong turn. He's like, no!
Yeah, and then we just get a, minute of him just like, he, takes off his clown nose. He's like, and then, we cut to a different part of the world.
But yeah, the interactions between the two are really fun. He's like, look, we have the same hat. And he's like, no, this is the freshest, the hippest. And he's like, fresh hat. And he just keeps saying fresh hat. And I'm just like, what? And he's like, hype. And he's like, good to go. He anytime Yo-Yo says something, he's like, I like this expression.
Yeah. And Helmet's or Yo-Yo's giving him shit. He's like, your name's Helmet? And he's laughing at him. And then
he's like, what's your name? Yo-Yo. And he's like the toy? And he's like, no, not like the toy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one, out of all of them, might have been my favorite. It had the goofiest energy to it, but also just a degree of just somberness, because I want to know what the fuck was up with that cab driver. He seemed like he had a bigger story going on underneath that we just never got to see.
Yeah, because he's like, no, I left on my own free, and he's like, I don't have a family. And then immediately, and he's like, I don't care about the money. When he said it was important to him, he obviously just wants company. I'm just like, this guy's probably extremely depressed.
Yeah.
And he's probably lost his family or something. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it doesn't seem hopeful.
But at least in that moment, he was happy. Mm-hmm. Fresh hat.
Fresh hat.
And then we go to the third one.
In France?
France, yeah, in Paris.
Which is, this cab driver kicks out some, fucking kind of shitty racist people who are
there's these 2 black guys that are trying to tell him from where in Africa this guy is, because the cab driver is also black, and he's once he they keep guessing and they're calling him ugly, and he's like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, he's like, get out of my car.
And he's he says he's from the Ivory coast, and then he says it in a way that they in French they say something like that sounds kind of like it, but it means like he is blind or something like that. I was reading about this because it's in French. It's like supposed to be just like this little thing, but he kicks him out because he's like, "You're being a dickhead." So, and then he kind of just leaves him on a random road, and he's like, "How are we supposed to get a cab here?" He's like, "I don't give a shit."
Yeah.
But then he picks up a blind woman who he's like fascinated with, and she's kind of just a bitch to him. Sometimes,
to be fair,
he's kind of the worst too. And some of the questions he's asking are weird, but some of them are just like genuine curiosity.
Yeah,
there's a weird like back and forth on them just being assholes to each other.
I kind of get it. Like, if I was blind and every interaction I went, so like, can you like do normal stuff?
I'd be like, know how to eat toes?
It's like, oh my god.
What if your carrots were blue? And she's like, I don't give a shit if my carrots are blue. What does that even mean?
Yeah. So, and it's clear that he's kind of like attracted to her. He's trying to get into some more personal territory. He's like, what about making love? Like, what's that like?
She's like, I make love with my whole body, something you've never thought of.
Yeah.
There's like, including your toenails.
And then, basically he drops her off at the point she wants to. And she calls him like an ugly person, which, from the little glimpses we get, he doesn't seem like the most beautiful person. But drops her off, and he's like gawking at her, and he crashes into somebody.
And the guy immediately goes, "What are you, blind?"
Yeah. And then she walks away with a smirk, knowing that he kind of got his just desserts. And that's pretty much that one.
Yeah. And then fourth one is, we've already briefly talked about it.
Oh, yeah.
Guy in Italy doesn't fucking know how to drive. He's like crazy. He's like driving, he's singing, he's like, he's like so funny. And then he picks up this priest, and he's like, "Oh, are you a bishop?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Okay, bishop, I'll take you to where you need to go." And then he's immediately like, "I'm going to confess to you." And he's like, "Please don't." And he's like having heart problems. He's like reaching for his chest. And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to confess to you." And then he just regales the tales of like all his sexual exploits every time, going, "Yeah, I know it's bad, but I love fucking." And it gets too much for the priest. He tries to take some medicine, but he like drops it, and then he dies of a heart attack.
So he's just like, "Oh fuck, I can't. I murdered this bishop. I gotta do something." So he just like sticks him on a bench somewhere.
Even though he could have just taken him to the hospital, nobody would have been like, "Yeah, you murdered him."
Yeah, like, I don't think they were gonna like question him to the point where it's like, were you talking about that time you fucked a sheep?
He's like, "Oh fuck." Maybe this is like the fourth time this has happened.
Maybe. But yeah, so he basically just dumps him off and
leaves.
Yeah. And that's that one.
Then we go to the fifth one, which is in Finland, Helsinki.
I think I've seen the driver in this from some other.
The guy with the mustache.
He looked
Mika?
really familiar.
Probably,
but I don't know. Like, there's only like a small handful.
Oh, maybe not. He's been in a lot of Aki Kaurismäki's films. If you've seen any of those movies,
I don't think so. No. He just looks super familiar. I'll just look at his thing and see if I can find him.
I haven't seen him in anything, but he's only in that person's films, pretty much. He's in and Night on Earth.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what maybe I just am...
He looks like Joe.
There it is. Maybe it's just something else I've seen that has someone who looks extremely similar to him. But, this one, basically, the cab driver.
He's just kind of driving around, and then he picks up these three drunk guys. One's, just completely knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell him that, he's has, a pregnant wife, or...
This guy's had the worst night.
And he lost his job, and he's like, you think he's had a bad night? Let me tell you the worst story you've ever heard. And then he tells them this very sad story about how, like, he had a wife and she got pregnant and she gave birth like 3 months early or some shit. And the baby had to be in an incubator. And he's like, I'm going to be completely distant, so I'm not sad when this baby dies. But then there's a little bit of hope. So he's like, okay, maybe I love the baby. And then immediately the baby dies. And he's like, no!
Yeah.
That's the whole story. But they're like, oh, maybe our friend's a stupid idiot and shouldn't be sad at all.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what?
I mean,
they're just like completely not. They're like, this guy's the worst. This guy's life is much worse.
Yeah. And they're basically like, yeah. Then he gets to their block, drops them off, and he wakes up the Aki guy, who's the other guy who they were like, had a shit day. And the dude's like, where the fuck? Where am I? He's like, yo, you're in a cab and you owe me the fucking fare. He's like, alright. And he just like sits on a fucking like curb. And then they're like, are you okay? Alright. Well, bye. And he drives off into the early morning sunset. And yeah, it's the movie. And yeah, I like this one. I like this one a lot more.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed pretty much all of the scenes.
The vignettes.
I think the third one's probably the weakest, because the France one.
Oh, yeah.
I still enjoyed it, but I think in general it's a little... maybe not it's confused, but I was a little confused on what it wanted its character motivations to be at times. I'm like, it was interesting, but I don't think it was spent enough time with its characters to really like wrap my head around what it wanted to say about its characters. Because like it's showing the main character be like discriminated against, and then he immediately discriminates against another person. I'm like, is it trying to show that there's like a vicious cycle of like discrimination between like, I'm like, what is it? Or is it just being like, men are the worst? Because like I agree, but
Fair.
Like, there's some cool stuff. I like that, like, they say, oh, this guy's blind at the beginning, and he's like, they're literally talking about, what can you not see? Why aren't you wearing fucking glasses? Like, they say that, and then he picks up a blind person. Like, there's some fun little, like, narrative jumping back and forth moments in that, but in general, I think it's the weakest of the five.
Yeah,
I think
probably agree.
It's also such a big tonal shift between the second one that it's a little hard to get into at the beginning, so it takes a little longer to get into it, and I think... I don't know this for sure, but it feels like the shortest of the five. Maybe it isn't, but...
I'd probably say the one that felt shortest to me was the last one.
That might have been it as well, but...
But... I don't know.
But other than that, I think that I like the tone. I like the tone shifting. I like the time shifting. And I really like all the performances. Winona Ryder's fun as hell. Everybody in the second one's really fun. That guy in the fifth one's really cool. I do want to watch more movies with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, in general, I just really like this one. And I really like Tom Waits' song at the beginning where he's like, no!
Yeah.
Live!
There's a word.
There's a word.
But yeah, this one, like, vast improvement. Especially considering he had just made the other one, like, right before this one. Really just felt like a primer for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he really nailed this one. I enjoyed it a lot more. I felt like it just had a lot more focus, and on top of that, even the parts that felt unfocused had enough like character and zane to them, to where I was just like, yeah, this is fun. I'm enjoying it. So yeah. I would give this one an 8.
I would. And you'd give this a 7.
Mm-hmm.
God, we're so good at this now.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
we're still just completely off.
Yeah.
All right. Sure. Well, we have completed another episode of Screen Weens. We're almost there to episode 100. We're almost to 200 subscribers.
I just had a terrible realization. Hold on.
Did you not pick something?
No.
For your deep dive?
Well,
I know you switched. Okay. Well,
I can just pick one on the fly here.
No worries. I'll read you a quick excerpt from Visions of the Future, The Hand of Thrawn, Book 2.
The Empire is poised to rise again. But what of your big blue head, Mr. Thrawn? Who cares about my big blue head? I am the best tactical genius since Ben Quaterneros, the pod racing champion.
Ben Quaterneros? That's a name I haven't heard in quite a bit of time, says Gascano, Ben Quaterneros' former lover.
Yes, I know it is hard to think about Ben Quaterneros, Mr. Gascano, Thrawn replies. But we must get him on our side. For if we have two of the most brilliant tactical minds in the world, there is nothing Luke Skywalker can do to stop us.
They really talk about Ben Quaterneros?
No, none of that was real.
Oh, okay.
Ben Quaterneros didn't even exist at this point, I don't think.
Yeah.
No, he might have, because this is... Can't remember when this one came out. Because this is the fourth, technically. So this might have already been out at that point.
Okay. All right. I've got a director.
Nope, it was a year before. Okay.
Andrea Arnold.
Andrea Arnold.
The movies we will be covering.
Andrea Arnold.
She directed Wuthering Heights
okay.
and American Honey. Those are two of the ones we're going to be watching. We're also going to be watching Fish Tank.
And Red Road?
Red Road. And Wasp, which is a short.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool. American Honey's been on my watch list for a long time.
Yeah, and it has...
Oh, dude, you're making me watch a Shia LaBeouf film?
Yeah. I've wanted to watch this, though, and it just lines up with the director I chose, so...
Yeah, well, Michael Fassbender's
You made me watch
Fish Tank, so.
fucking Fury, 2 weeks ago, so... It was more than 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but, he wasn't the main... He's, the main character, or he's the secondary character.
I get antagonist vibes from him in that movie.
Okay. So if he plays a piece of shit, that's fine.
Yeah, I think he does.
Cool.
It seems like he does. So, yeah.
Oh, Pierre sent me questions 10 minutes ago.
Should we just do them now?
Nope.
Okay,
We'll just add them on to whatever he sends for next week.
Okay. Well, have a nice night on Earth, guys.
That's the name of one of the movies we watched! Bazinga!
Jesus Christ.